In this video, we're gonna talk about B-roll, and when I say B-roll, I mean this kind of B-roll. So that entire sequence was shot in like 30 minutes at home in our apartment together with my fiance Amanda, and we didn't have any kind of extra lighting or anything like that. We only used the lighting coming in from the windows, and since it was like a cloudy day outside, we had this like soft box-ish light that was lighting the whole scene. And the reason that I shot that sequence was basically because I wanted to share with you guys on how to shoot B-roll fast and how you can make anything interesting just if you stay with a few guidelines that I'm gonna share with you in this video. But before we get to that, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that is subscribed here to the channel. You guys rock. It is amazing to have all the support that you guys give me. And if this is your first time watching me, then you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button because, you know, that'd be appreciated. It's gonna be down here, so like that's just a call out. So B-roll on YouTube is something completely different than what it is in the film industry, because like in the film industry, it's basically just an add-on to the main story arc. But when it comes to YouTube, it's more like a cool way of showing off where you are or what is going on or someone doing something cool in short sequences. So if you want to shoot a sequence like the one you saw in the beginning, then there's a couple of things that I think is really important to think about. And that is going to be the planning, it's going to be the story, the use of different shots, and then the editing part. And we're going to go through all those components and break those down so that next time that you're shooting a B-roll, you're going to be like, oh yeah. And these things applies no matter what kind of B-roll it is that you want to shoot. Maybe for a vlog, maybe a short sequence or anything else. So the absolute first thing before I shoot a sequence like the one you saw in the beginning is definitely going to be the planning. And when I say planning, I don't mean that you have to plan every single detail of every single shot and know exactly what you're gonna do, because that's probably like gonna change anyway. But try to like visualize some kind of image of how you want the sequence to look or how you want like the final edit to be, because that is going to make it so much easier for you to actually get the result that you want to have. And if you got time, I would highly recommend you to like write everything down so that you don't forget what you're about to shoot when you actually get to shooting the B-roll sequence. But of course, there's going to be a lot of times where you actually cannot plan your shots, and that is where you want to focus on the story instead, because if you can't do the planning, then if you know the basics of a story, then you can just focus on that to capture what you want to capture when you are on the go and when you are in a hurry and stuff like that. So when it comes to telling a story, I think that many people, myself included, like try to overanalyze what a story is, because a story doesn't have to be like complex or anything like that. A story is a start, a middle, and an end. That's like it. And I mean, like the sequence in the beginning is Amanda throwing out the coaster, pouring the water, drinking the water. So a story arc doesn't have to be like this and that and this and that, everything leading up to this huge climax and this. Yeah, a story can basically be anything that you want it to be. It can be the location that you're in or something that you do or whatever you can come up with, because as long as it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, it's gonna be a story. And having characters in your story is gonna be like one of the most important parts of the story, because without any characters, you will have a hard time to tell a story. So looking back at the characters that I had in this sequence, we got the kitchen, which is the place that we're in. It's the like location. We have Amanda, which is the main person doing all these things. And we have the coaster, which is flying. And then we have the water bottle, and then we have the water glass. So we got basically 5 characters that we can include into that story. And when you start thinking about story that is not a huge complex thing, more like a simple thing, it's gonna be so much easier for you to actually get the shots that you want and be able to tell the story that you want. As long as everything is progressing towards the end, then the story is done right. And to be able to tell a story, there's gonna be a couple of things that will make it easier for you, to make it more intriguing, to make it look cooler, to make it better, if you may. And since we're videographers, like the main thing that we can focus on is gonna be the shots that we use to tell the story. So depending on what kind of B-roll it is that we want to shoot, there's gonna be entirely different shots that is gonna be needed to be able to tell the story. Something that I try to focus on when I wanna tell a story is gonna be the establishing shot in the beginning. Because if you don't have any kind of establishing shot, it's gonna be really hard for me as the viewer to be engaged and feel like I'm really like immersed into your story. So again, in the beginning of the video, we have Amanda walking up towards the cupboard in the kitchen, and that is our establishing shot because we show the viewer that she is in the kitchen, she's walking up, she's grabbing this coaster and throwing that away, and from that everything just starts. And the cool thing with an establishing shot is that it can be a extremely wide shot, it can be an extremely close-up shot, it can be an aerial shot, it can be anything that you want, as long as it's actually like providing value to the story that you're gonna tell. So say for example that you're recording a vlog and you want to have some B-roll in that vlog. The establishing shot is gonna be you talking to the camera, telling your audience where you are and what you're gonna do, because that is gonna be like telling the beginning of the story, so that when you jump into the B-roll sequence, you don't have to focus on the establishing shot for that B-roll sequence. Then you can just jump into like details and getting the feeling of actually being in the place that you are. Which brings us into medium and close-up shots that I personally use a whole lot. So shooting B-roll is definitely gonna be a lot about catching the details of where you are, what is going on, who's doing what and stuff like that. And that is when you want to use the medium shots and the close-up shots, but you don't want to use only close-up shots when you're shooting a B-roll sequence. I know that it's really cool to have like a lot of details of your shot, but if you only have the details, it's going to be really hard to sell the concept of the whole B-roll sequence. And that is why you want to use the medium shot, because when you use the medium shot, it's going to be like a little bit more isolated on your subject, where you are, maybe the location, and then when you have both the establishing shot, the medium shot, then you can get into the actual close-ups of what is happening and get those details. Because when you combine all these three, it's gonna give you a way more dynamic storytelling than if you just go for the extreme close-up or just go with wide, which brings us into shooting for the editing process. So when I was starting out shooting a lot of B-roll sequences or try to like do small cinematic stuff, the focus that I had was to like get the details, always get the details. I completely forgot about like the medium and establishing shots in my videos. Like it was only about the details. When you're shooting your video, you want to like remember that you can piece everything together in the editing process. You can do the planning, you can like really think about the story, and then you can use all the different kind of shots that there is. But if you do not know how to piece that together when you get to the editing process, then your story is not going to be there, and your cinematic sequence or your B-roll sequence is not going to be as good as you wanted it to be. And when it comes to editing, I had a hard time in the beginning to always remember that you can cut things out or you can add them in. You don't have to get the perfect shot when you're shooting, because you can just try it over again and then try it again and try it again, and you know, try new stuff that you didn't plan or shoot different things that you didn't even think about shooting. And then when you get to the editing process, then you can just go through all the different shots that you got, and the story is going to be what you want to show in the final piece that you actually publish onto YouTube. It's gonna require a lot of practice, but when you start to think about all of these things together, like having them in the back of your head when you go out to shoot, you're gonna be able to shoot B-roll like super fast. It's gonna be anything that you can come up with. It's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna use this shot, this shot. I want a story to be like this and that, and I already told this part of the story, so I'm just gonna like focus on this. It's gonna be so much easier for you to be able to tell a good story and shoot better B-roll using these tips. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up because it does help a lot. So thank you so much for that. And if you haven't subscribed, hit that button, Anna. That'd be highly appreciated. So, nej, jag vet inte. Ha det gött. Hej då.